Thank you for that very warm introduction. So it went on and on and on and on. I thought I wished I had shortened the introduction a little bit more. And welcome everyone. Thank you for coming today. It's always my pleasure to be associated with ASQ. ASQ is very close to me, whether it's at home or professionally. So I see myself more like a member of the team, and I'm so happy to come back again this year. So around this time last year, I was here. I remember Kamala moderating the program on that day, and we're talking about change. In fact, I think the title of the presentation last year was Be a Change Agent, which happened to be the title of my award-winning book. But today, we will still keep talking about change. However, we're going to look at change from a slightly different perspective. So we are titling this discussion, The VERITAS, Personal Attributes of Agents of Change. Personal Attributes of Agents of Change. So we're going to be looking at, so what forms the attributes or the attitudes of people that you could call agents of change. And this is the way I want to lay foundation for this. So look at this. If you look at the title of today's discussion, you'll see that these four are the major key words that you can find in that topic. So we have the veritas, and then we have change, we have leaders, we have attributes. So as we go through the discussion today, I want you to pay attention to these four different things. So I want you in your mind to be thinking change. I want you to be thinking leadership or leaders. I want you to be thinking about attributes or what you can call qualities of the change leader as we go through. So I have no agenda for the presentation. It will basically be a discussion. So I'll speak for the most part of the first part of the presentation, and then we're going to open it up for questions thereafter. So let's get right into it. The last time I was here, we were talking about change leadership and the fact that all of us, we have our own niche, we have our own area of talent, of gifts, of personal abilities that are peculiar to us. And our leadership actually starts from using those talents, those skills, and those personal abilities. So I like us to first of all dismiss the wrong idea. What are they? The first one, this idea of exclusivity of leadership. You know, anytime you mention the word leader, some people immediately exclude themselves from it. It's like, oh, I'm not a leader. Whereas the reason people are excluding themselves from being a leader is because of this wrong idea of leadership. Because we've thought that leadership is exclusive. We think people that are maybe in certain types of roles or positions, that those are the leaders. That leads me to the second wrong idea, this idea of traditional leadership. So the traditional leadership is positional in nature, it's authority-based. Sometimes it's given to people because of privilege, sometimes it's competition-based, sometimes it's this command and control, this old archaic way of perceiving leadership. And there are lots of people that parade themselves around as leaders, but they lack the attributes, the attitudes, and in fact, the moral authority to call themselves leaders. And we found that that traditional approach is not going to serve us into the future. The reality is that our leadership actually starts from ourselves. So if anybody is able to develop themselves using their innate abilities, so you develop your innate abilities, you begin to exhibit some certain qualities or certain characteristics that are peculiar to you, and especially with which you can serve the world, you begin to become a leader in that area of niche. And every single one of us can do that. Leadership is all about influence. And how do we influence people? We influence people through what we have, through our gifts, through our personal abilities. And that's where it all begins. So real leadership is first of all personal focused before it begins to be focused on other people. So leadership is not about bossing people around. It's about us being able to exhibit our innate abilities, to be able to create a niche for ourselves and be able to rub our lives on the lives of other people and make the world a better place because of that. We also talked about the leadership versus management philosophy, and we said that management and leadership, they don't mean the same thing. So a manager is basically focused on running goals, processes, tasks, activities, and all of that, whereas leadership looks at vision, strategy, change, and all of that. And then we went on and on. Again, just laying additional foundation. Now we're getting to the first word there. You know, at the beginning, we had change, we have leader, we have attributes, and then we have veritas. So let's talk about change. Change is a fundamental law of life. There are a few laws of life that are fundamental. For example, another one that I've identified recently, and which I wrote in my new book, Pursuit of Personal Leadership, is also the law of work. Work is also a fundamental law of life, just like change. And why is this very important? The reality is that there is nothing in this world that you can improve without change. Change makes growth possible, right? So you'll see a lot of people going around and saying that they want to be successful this way or that way. Somebody may want to double their income. Somebody wants to have a promotion. Somebody wants to graduate from college, or they want to buy a new house. They want to do whatever it is that you want to do. Everything, every kind of improvement that we wish for is such that if we don't change something, they cannot happen. The only thing that guarantees that an improvement will happen is this law of change. Nothing can succeed without change. Change makes success possible. We also know that it is not every change that leads to an improvement, and that is why change must be guided. Things can change for the worse. The fact that things change doesn't mean that it will always change in the positive direction. And I like to always use this concept of natural state. You know, when you are talking about, say, an iron ore, which is a complex oxide of iron that resides in the ground. If you look at iron ore, it's not desirable in any form. So if you really want to use that iron ore and you want to get it into something that you can call a steel or construction material or whatever, you need to take it through refining, right? So after refining, you can get the steel. But the reality is that if you take a piece of steel and you put it outside under the influence of the weather, maybe rain, sunshine, everything, and you leave it for long enough, what you find is that steel will begin to rust. Now, that rust that you see on steel, from science, we know that rust is an oxide. It's a complex oxide too. So you have iron 2 oxide, iron 3 oxide. And if you leave it for long enough, what steel tries to do is that it tries to return back to its original form, which is undesirable. So that means that if we leave something there without any touch of newness, without taking care of it, the natural state of things may not be desirable. And that's why if you leave your backyard without pruning your trees, cutting your grass, removing the weed and all that, your backyard will turn to a jungle if we don't put a touch of newness to anything. So that's change right there. But the change is not for an improvement, it's changing for the worse, right? So that means that our intervention is required anytime we want change to be a positive change. And we need to take care of that. Change must be guided. We also know that change will happen irrespective of what we do or what we neglect to do. If you like, you can do nothing. The truth is that change will still happen, whether we do something or we don't. And we know that every single one of us has a potential to become an agent of change. So why must we lead change? Because we started with talking about leadership. So now we have change and leadership. Why do we need to lead change? The reality is that we have several possible responses to change. And for example, number one, we can do nothing. And if we do nothing, like I mentioned before, change will still happen, but we may just become the victim of the circumstance. Look at it this way. If a change is happening, and that change is like a moving train that you cannot really stop, what will happen is that you just become a victim. And we've seen this happen several times. when there is a change of policy or there is a change of something in the society where you don't have control. So if you do nothing, you may become a victim. Secondly, we can resist change. So again, if that change is such that it's a moving train, you can get run over if you resist the change, or you may become a stumbling block if you are indeed able to resist and stop the change. So let's assume that the change is great for everybody and you try to resist it, then you are going to become a stumbling block. The other option is that we can accept change and do what we need to adapt to that change. Again, when change is inevitable, when change is such that it will happen, whether we do something or not, we may choose to accept it and do what is needful. We also know that we can plan for, manage, control, or change the change to achieve the desired outcome. And this is when we begin to step into the realm of controlling our own future, when we begin to do something, when we are proactive about the kind of change that is going to come. And in fact, we can create the change that we need to see in the world. Instead of waiting for the future to happen to us, we can actually be in charge of our own future. And we know that what this all means for us is that it is important for us to be deliberate in how we handle our future. We must dare to lead change, dare to embrace change, and dare to create change. And in fact, when we talk about change leadership, we know that the responsibility of a leader is to create change, to lead change, and influence people for change. So if you see anyone that calls themselves a leader, and they are not doing any of these things, they are no leader at all. The reason you are a leader is to create change or to lead change or to influence people for change. And that change has to be in the positive direction. Now, I will move into the VERITAS very shortly, but I want to identify these two groups of people first. The first one is that we have people in position of authority who don't know how to initiate change, to lead change, or influence other people for change. That is definite. And that is why we have a lot of leadership crisis today. That's why you look at the people that we look up to and we see them fumble and we see them, not doing things right, not making the right decision, not going the right direction. And it's obvious. They are the only ones that don't see the errors, but they still keep doing whatever they want to do. They impose things on people. They just do this command and obey thing and they keep moving on. So we have people like that in positions of authority, but they don't know how to initiate change. Secondly, we have people who are willing to lead change, but they are yet to develop the skills that they are needed for success. For these two group of people, there is a lot that could be learned, right? And then we have other people also, maybe some of us on this call, maybe part of this too, or we're actually people that are already doing well in our area. Maybe we are great leaders, but we just want to expand our influence. We want to become better agent of change for the society. So I think that's important. What I'm saying tonight is that there is a roll call here. All of us are called into leadership. It doesn't matter whatever area of vocation you are in, you have that capacity to become a leader in your area of niche. Now, look at it this way. Let me ask you a question. An automobile, let's say a car, for example, which part of the car is the most important? Is it the windshield? Is it the engine, the tire, the trunk, the seats inside the car, the battery? I don't think we can answer that question conclusively. Every single part of the automobile is important. If you disconnect the cable that connects the battery to the ignition system, the car will not work. Yet it's still a small component of that car. So it's the same way we all are in this world. We are all kind of intertwined, interconnected together. We need everybody for the world to function. So that means that it doesn't matter what you do, your position where you occupy is very unique to the proper functioning of our world. So the truth is that the world will not function effectively if you don't perform your own part of the duty. So let's talk about this concept of VERITAS or change leadership that I really want to present to you today. Now look at this wheel. I call this wheel the change leader wheel. And I'm representing the successful change leader with the rim of the wheel. So the rim of the wheel is the wheel itself, right? So when you're talking about a wheel, if there is no rim, then it's not a wheel. What makes it a wheel is really the rim. But we know that the rim cannot exist in isolation. We have the hub, and then we have the spokes of the wheel. So you may just quickly visualize a bicycle for this. So if the hub is missing, then you cannot connect the wheel to an axle or to a shaft, right? So you need that hub. That's the center of the wheel. But if you have the hub and you have the rim and you don't have the spokes, then you still don't have a wheel, because the spokes are connecting the rim to the hub, right? So if the spokes are weak, what do you think will happen to the wheel under loading? Well, we know that the wheel will not be able to carry load. So the spoke have to be strong enough so that they can carry the load. So I'm going to be using the analogy of this wheel to describe the VERITAS to you. And I want you to just follow me as we go. So just bear this in mind. Put this picture in your mind as we go forward, because I may not talk about this wheel again until we get very close to the end. So just note this in your mind. Now let's talk about the VERITAS. Now, what's this VERITAS thing all about? VERITAS in the English word, I think it has its root in Latin or something like that, means truth. So if you check the dictionary and you look for the meaning of VERITAS, VERITAS means truth. It's related to the word veri or verity, something of that nature. VERITAS means truth. Every single one of us is on a journey. So the journey into leadership is a continuum. It's not a destination. So your destination in itself is a journey. Let's put it that way. So none of us will get to a point in our lives when we say, yeah, I have now become the great leader or something like that. It's a journey. Everyone is at a different point on that journey. So we have an opportunity to continue to hone our skills and become a better agent of change for the society. So these VERITAS I've used to describe the personal attributes of the change leader, and it's actually an acronym. And I will just, in a nutshell, reveal what each of those letters of VERITAS stand for. So the V stands for vision. Somebody may say, okay, so we are talking about vision tonight. Yes, we'll talk about vision, but we'll look at it in a slightly different way. The E for emotional stability, R for resolve, I for independence, T for toughness, A for audacity, and S for synergy. I'll take a minute or two to go over each one of these and try to provoke your thought about what each one of these things mean. Now, there are no laws or rules against these 7 attributes of the leader of change. If anybody really wants to be successful as a change leader, they need to embrace all these 7 attributes. Again, you may be earlier on in your journey into any one of these. For example, when we say independence, we'll get there. When we say independence, some people are maybe just starting off to becoming really independent in the way they approach their leadership, while some people will be a little bit more advanced. But again, all of us are at different stage in this continuum. So let's talk about vision. Now, this is the way I want to describe vision for you, because I think generally speaking, we all understand vision. But look at the person that we can call a leader versus the others. The main thing that separates a leader from the rest is vision. And why is this very important? As a leader, we need to be able to create in our minds first where we're going. What makes you a leader is because you're able to see a destination, you know where you're going. So vision actually separates the leader from the rest. So when we're talking about vision, the old saying that every road leads to Rome doesn't apply here. You know, when there is no vision, everyone loses a sense of direction. If you have a team that is working together and there is no leader, there is no visionary leadership in that team, you'll see that the team will not function effectively. But when a leader shows up in a team, everything changes because a leader shows up with a vision. And vision is all about imagination. It's about the mental picture of the future. It's about using our creative thinking to define a destination, where we are going. So the truth is that there may be so many avenues to get into a destination, but the destination has to be definite. It has to be clear. Where everybody needs to go somewhere. So if you see someone that calls themselves a leader and they are leading a team or leading an organization or leading somewhere, and they cannot tell all of us where we are going, then we doubt whether they are the leader or not. So if you see someone in the team that knows exactly where we're going, then that's the leader in the team. So it's all about creatively uh, channeling a pathway for the future. It's about the destination. And I like to just talk a little bit on that creative thinking part of it. So the kids or the children, they are way better than most of us adults when it comes to creative thinking, because children are very imaginative. But the truth is that as we grow up, we begin to lose our ability to envision because we begin to face the facts of life. So our experience, some of the things we've gone through begin to create limitations on how much we can imagine. So becoming a visionary leader means that we need to take on that nature of a child again, be able to dream again. And that's how we can create a future that everyone would see. I like to use Walt Disney, for example. When I read the story of Walt Disney, you know what? I was really blown away. Because this is a guy that was so free in the way he thought. With his Mickey Mouse in 1928 was when he first created that cartoon character, Mickey Mouse. And you see who Mickey is today. 100 years later, we are still or going to Disney and all these places to go and talk to Mickey or to watch Mickey, right? So Walt Disney in 1965 announced that there will be Disney World. That was 1965, but he died in 1966. So he had this great concept. He had the concept for Disneyland, and the other concept he had was the one called the experimental prototype community of the future, right? So the Epcot, the Disneyland, he had all these great concepts, all well documented. He knew where he was going, but he died. However, in 1971, Disney World was opened. That was 5 years after his death. How could that have been possible? Because he had vision, and that vision was such that the vision could outlive him. Visionary change leaders, they use their imagination, they have a definite, clear picture of the future, they see opportunities when others don't, they are flexible, they are open to ideas, they are ready to shift in a direction that fills a gap in the society, and they are usually committed to causes that will outlive them. They are ready to take others along as they journey into their future, and they are dedicated to fulfilling their vision. So I can talk about this forever, but let's just keep and go to the second one, which is emotional stability. Emotional stability. Now, when we talk about emotional stability, anyone that does not possess proper emotional quotient or emotional stability would be somewhat limited in their ability to do big things. And we know that for a fact. So the ability to go far in one's journey to success in leadership becomes limited without emotional maturity. Now, when we talk about emotional maturity, there are three aspects that we need to look at. We need to look at this aspect of self-concept or self-expression. So how you see yourself compared to how you see other people is a very big component of this. So when you are emotionally stable and you have a great self-concept and self-expression, you are able to feel secure when you express yourself to people, okay? So it comes with a lot of respect for other people, the way other people feel and the way you feel. They are very, very important. You are able to control potential outbursts of negative emotions. When you see people outside, like I was reading a news recently that at my place of work, there was an incident where they had to call the police to intervene because some two adults who stepped down from a bus got down from the bus, they had an altercation, And then they stepped into the building and the altercation continued and they could not control themselves and all that. And then we have police on the scene and all of that, right? So you could see the outburst of emotions right there. But the reality is that people that have emotional stability, they are able to control that. They don't engage in all those kind of things. You won't see them outside engaging in altercation with people, because that could actually damage the opportunity to become a leader or to lead effectively as we like to be. They understand the importance of how they feel and how other people feel. So it is not a sign of weakness to be emotional. You know, some people will think that, oh, a leader needs to be strong, so they are not emotional people. That is not true. When you have emotional stability, it means that you recognize your own emotions and you're able to put that under control while you consider what other people feel also. Another part of self-concept and self-expression is that people that are emotionally stable, they understand that when we have non-verbal expressions, like some of the cues, some of the body language and all that, those things also have consequences too, because sometimes actions can speak louder than voice. Secondly, we talk about relationships. When you're emotionally stable, you focus on building bridges and not burning them. You know, I've seen people go through life and they just offend everybody. They offend whoever, anybody that stands in their way. They are just like a bulldozer. You know, they just keep moving on and they bulldoze everything in their way. That is not a sign of leadership. People that are emotionally stable, they build bridges. They build those connections. They look after others. They think win-win. So when they win, others win also. There's no point winning when everybody else is losing. It's a sign of losing too. It's a failure. When you are the only one winning and nobody else around you is winning, then you are a complete failure. So emotionally stable people, they think win-win, they think community, they think about the personal sacrifice that they bring into their endeavor, and they help to build trust. And lastly, the self-control. Emotionally stable leaders look at facts before making a decision. They don't just go ahead and just do anything, right? They refrain from acting too quickly. They develop a high tolerance for stress. Sometimes in our journey to leadership, we will face stress. There will be things that will stress us up. There will be people that will push our button. There will be issues, circumstances that we're going to face that will get us uncomfortable. So how do we get comfortable with ourselves in the face of uncomfortable situations? How do we accept our own mistakes, faults, errors, and different, different personal abilities or lack of abilities? And how do we become predictable and also dependable at the same time? That's emotional stability. Thirdly, resolve. When we talk about resolve, we're talking about the will to succeed. Now, let's listen very carefully to this. There is nothing significant that anyone can achieve without willpower. So I've noticed this in a lot of great people that achieve big things in their lives. This willpower thing is very important. I think you may see this again, something like, say, burning desire or a passion to do something, passion to succeed in something. I noticed that a lot of people that do great things, whether they are great athletes or they're great scientists or people that just do something significant, something remarkable, they are people with a lot of strong will. They are strong-willed, they approach their mission with that admirable sense of purpose. They have that definite purpose, they know exactly what they want to do, and they have that strong desire and that personal drive to fulfill their mission. You can use the word strong will for them. Very decisive, very strong-willed. They proceed in the direction of their goal. They dare to start. So they start, and if they fail, you know what they do? They rise up again and they keep moving. It's like you're riding a horse, and after a gallop or a bump, the horse throws you off and you fall on the ground. Instead of you to sit there and be whining, the next thing is to get up and pull the horse, get back on the horse and keep riding. People that have the will to succeed, that's how they approach their mission. They work hard. They try to overcome all the obstacles, all the difficulties on their way. And if they fail, they learn and start again. And if they fall, they rise again. They don't give up. So I noticed that the reason many of us are unable to fulfill our goal in life or to achieve that thing that we have dreamt of is this lack of resolve. We have not determined exactly that we're going to do it. The day we determine that we are going to do it, that day we are going to really do it. It's one of my philosophies that the world must make room for anyone that has reached that sense of determination that they will succeed in what they are doing. The world just needs to pave way for you. So that's resolve. Independence. And I like to discuss independence a little bit more carefully because part of it is that when we talk about independence in leadership, we are not talking about lack of cooperation. So I said it's not synonymous to lack of cooperation with other people, independence. So when we talk about independence in leadership, we are talking about being unconstrained in the way we imagine and act. It's taking self-responsibility for success in life. So change leaders are people that think freely and they take responsibility for their thoughts and their consequent actions. So I like what so okay, let me put it this way. So when we talk about independence, we talk about maturity and leadership. And one example I would like to give you is let's take a child, for example. They begin to crawl, and after a while, they start holding tables and chairs, falling down, all that. But one day, the child will begin to walk on their own. They gain independence on their own and they start walking. Same thing with other birds, animals. So take a goose, for example. So the gosling is small, they don't have wings, they keep just trying to manage to float on water and all that. After a while, they grow wings and then they fly on their own, they gain independence. It's the same thing with leadership. Independence is a sign of maturity. When you see a mature leader, you see them taking thoughts independently. They can stand on their own. In most cases, they are original in the way they think and they act originally. You can see that this is flowing from them. This is coming from them. They are not orthodox in the way they do things. They don't follow other people blindly. They don't follow the status quo necessarily, right? They are people that can change the norm, and sometimes they may be perceived as people that are not cooperative. That's usually coming from people that don't understand the essence of being independent in the way we do things. And people that are independent in their thought, they are not easily influenced by the partisanship and the prejudices of other people, right? So in a place of work that is complex, you know, a lot of things happen when this person says this and that person says that. Independent people, they think freely on their own. They don't depend on the rumors or information from people and be influenced by that partisanship or prejudices in taking their own decision. They analyze situations independently, they take responsibility for their actions, and they don't blame other people. These are attributes that we as leaders need to develop. We need to develop independence in our journey to leadership. The next one is toughness. What do we mean by being tough? Okay, so toughness is about staying on track when things are difficult. Delays, opposition, disappointment, failures, distractions. And I like Robert Schuller's popular book of 1983. Many of us may know the book, Tough Times Never Last, but Tough People Do. And the saying that when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. So toughness is all about resilience. Let me give you an example of what this means. So let's compare two materials, a ceramic and a rubber band. So if you take a ceramic is usually very hard, very strong. Really, we have lots of articles in our house that are made with ceramic, including maybe tiles and all of that. They are very strong and very hard materials. But a ceramic does not have any elongation to it. It's not stretchable. You can't even walk it. It's just rigid and it's brittle. If you drop it, it's going to crack. But take rubber band, for example. Rubber band is not strong. It's so sometimes if you hold it, it's just kind of flimsy or whatever. And you can stretch it. You can stretch it so long. Now, when we are talking about toughness, toughness is a property that combines like the strength of a ceramic plus the ability to stretch of a rubber band. We call it resilience. So it's strong and at the same time it's still workable. So people that are tough, they're able to withstand pressure. They are resilient. They remain unbreakable in the presence of challenges and roughness. If you ask me, do we really have people that are tough? Yes, we do. Let me give you an example. An example would be someone like Nelson Mandela. So could you imagine somebody spending 26.5 years of their life in prison just because they will not shift on their ideology? So they stood on what they believe is the truth, tough, and it will not change his position. That position is done, is not changing. That is a tough individual. There are so many other people that we know in our history and today that are tough. Many of the entrepreneurs that you hear about today, many of the people that have founded great companies that you know today, they are mostly tough people. They don't give up, they are unbreakable. They combine their strength and resilience, and they have an ability to go extra mile. They continue to pursue their goals, even when there are delays or positions, when there are failures, they keep going on. They adapt to situations when those situations are unfavorable. So as change leaders, we need to develop toughness in order to achieve our goals and to fulfill our vision. Audacity is the next one. And audacity is just as it says, okay? It's stepping forward in boldness, it's lion-heartedness. Sometimes when I think about people that achieve big things, especially people that are all the first to do this, first to do that, I always kind of just admire their their temerity. Like, why would somebody think that they should do that? I remember in 2008 when I visited Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, I stood in front of that Petronas Twin Towers and I looked at the buildings. I was like, why would a human being think that they should build something as magnificent as this? And that is the truth. It's just a dream in the heart of somebody. Somebody thought that we should build a twin towers that will be that tall, that will be that huge. Let's build it with just steel and glass laminates. Let it be like this, like that. Why would somebody even conceive of this? And even if they conceive of it, why would somebody take a step forward, that giant stride, that bold step to go do something like that? And that is the reality. Why would somebody want to conquer Everest? Why would you want to be the first person to be at the top of Everest when you know that there is no oxygen at the top of the mountain? Why would somebody want to be the first to visit the moon? Why would anybody attempt all these big things? The truth is that people that change the world, they are people that are audacious. They have temerity. They are not intimidated by the size of the problem. They dare to stand by what is right and true for them. So in their context, when something is worth doing, they will do it. In most cases, people that are audacious, they are revolutionary in the way they think. And the hallmark of that audacious change leader is that they are on a change mission. When you see someone on the change mission, you know that they are on a change mission. You see them when they aspire to something, maybe a role in the society. Some of the politicians are like that. They are very audacious. They know if they know that they want to be president of somewhere or they want to be a governor of somewhere, you see they go all out for it. They take all the serious risks. They give up their comfort, their opportunities. They take financial risks. They brave the risk of failure and they move forward in audacity to do something spectacular, something that is important. Sometimes they resist and push back on anything that does not align with their idea. Or if there are people that are pursuing justice, for example, if something doesn't align with the idea of justice, they push back because they are lion-hearted, they are bold, and they just want to make sure that they move forward with that temerity, with that audacity to do what they have determined to do. And lastly, synergy. And when we talk about synergy, we are talking about collaboration. We are talking about drawing on collective capacity to do something significant. And each one of us must understand the limitation of working solo. When we work alone, we do much less. Pardon me. One of the examples I will give you. Why do we, when I look at farming, for example, on the farm, I read this maybe from some of the older books like in the Bible and many other materials, where in the past, people used to yoke animals together. So you have two oxes, and then instead of allowing them to pull plows on their own and do work, you actually take something they call a yoke. So it's like a long bar of some sort that they push onto the neck of the animals to kind of put them together so that they can walk together. I always imagine, why would you do that? So the truth is that it wasn't until I got more mature that I found that what the people of old used to achieve with yoking animals together is what we call synergy today. It's synergy. The truth is that when one person works and they get results, and another person works and you get result, and the third person works, you get result. If you add all of their results together, the output that you have from the three will be less compared to if the three of them were to be put together and work together. So when people work together, we employ what we call collective capacity. And I hope you all know that no one can single-handedly build an edifice. If you see anything great in this world, it's a product of teamwork. It's a team effort. Even the people, if you say, oh, who was the first person to go to the top of Everest? Well, you mentioned two people, the porter and the person that first got there. Let me announce to you, those people had more than 40 people that were working with them in the background. And they were not even the only team that got close to the summit of Everest. They just happened to be the team that was fortunate enough uh, as part of that team effort to be the next to try to attempt the summit. There was an attempt at the top of the mountain by a different group who did not make it because of low oxygen. And then they had to turn back before we had Tenzin Noge and his partner making that attempt. So there is no big thing in this world that anybody does alone. It is impossible. If you are thinking of doing something spectacular, something significant in this world, you must employ synergy. That is how we do great things. The effect of collective and synergized team effort is far greater than that of the sum of effort of individuals. What you have during the employment of synergy is that will bring greater reward to the team than compared to individuals. When we collaborate together, we maximize resources, we minimize waste when we come together. And then collaboration also gives us an opportunity for giving and receiving support from other people. And then we have an opportunity to influence a large segment of society where people or the society can feel a greater impact or a lasting impact of feats that are achieved by synergy. So those are the 7. And I have a poll for you here. So you will need to do me a favor here. This is a part where everyone will now participate. So which of the VERITAS qualities, well, I call them VERITAS qualities, would be on top of your priority to improve? So you've seen all of them. What you need to do here is you can take your mobile device, scan that code that you see on the screen, or you can just go to slido.com. And when you get into slido.com, it will ask you for a code. So put the hashtag S267. When you do that, you enter the poll, and then you can participate in the poll. So I hope this is working. So you've seen the 7. So I can see synergy, emotional stability. Yeah, we'd like a lot of people to participate. Just do it. Pick your mobile device or just go on your computer, type slido.com, hashtag S267. And if you scan the code, it takes you directly to the poll. So we want to see which of the VERITAS qualities people would like to focus on and improve the most on the top of their priority. So we have 6 people in the poll so far. Nobody is developing resolve, the ability to develop that resolve. Nobody wants to be independent yet. A lot of people want to form synergy. They want to be able to collaborate with other people. Yeah, I think lots of us understand our own limitations. Okay, the poll is still open. Still open and active. We have 8 people so far out of 16 of us on the call. Yeah. Okay, synergy is winning so far. Okay, so let's keep the poll open for another 15 seconds before we close the poll. Okay, 10 more seconds before we close the poll. Okay, 5 more seconds. So we can close the poll now. Thank you everyone that participated. As you could see, yeah, thank you for that addition. So everyone, majority of us would really like to focus on our ability to synergize. So I can see vision, emotional stability, toughness, audacity. Thank you everyone for participating. Now let's go back to where we started from. So you will see that I completed the wheel here. And what you notice is that the veritas are the spokes of that wheel. And why are the veritas the spoke of the wheel? The reason is that those are the attributes of the leader. They provide strength for the leader. So if the leader is represented by the wheel, the spokes of that wheel are the veritas. So if anyone does not have strength in any of the areas, then their ability to succeed as a leader of change will be limited. But there is something I want you to pay attention to. Look at the center of the wheel. Instead of saying hub, I've replaced hub with what I call ethos. Ethos. And you'll see four things in the ethos there. We have value, we have awareness, we have discernment, and then we have foresight. So at the very center is the ethos. And this is all about value system. So the hub of the wheel is the center, is the ethos. So someone may be a great rocket scientist, someone who has vision, who has emotional stability, all these things. If they lack character, their ability to succeed will still be limited. So if anyone has all the great attributes, all the great personality, all these great things, but they lack character, they lack ethos, which is at the center, at the hub, because that's where the hub is, where you connect to the shaft or the axle, right? That is the centerpiece. If somebody lacks that value system or the positive character, again, they are not able to go very far. So, and this value system that is always at play, whatever we do, is something that is born from our belief system. Some of the things that we have believed over a long time, they begin to shape our character, they begin to shape who we are. And that is the core, that is the center. If you have someone with all of the visions in this world, but they lack character, they will not be successful. You have somebody who is tough, who is great, and that's why you see a lot of people that are leading that fall, they fall flat. Anytime, any day, they try, attempt big things, but they fall flat just because of that centerpiece, that character. And what I've listed for you on here are some of the great things that we can align our value system with, which will make us to be in a better position as agents of change. For example, aligning our value system with honesty, focusing on common good and the greater good for everyone, placing value on human and animal lives, respecting other people, respecting property and infrastructure, public system, being a caretaker with the public, having goodwill towards ourselves and towards other people, and becoming a steward of all the resources that are available within our planet. And I think I'm going to stop there for now so that I can allow us to ask questions and to make comments. Back to you, moderator.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Dr. Ola. Actually, at my work, our intranet is named Veritas, so I know I'm going to be thinking of this acronym many times a day and think about it quite differently. So the floor is open for questions. Please raise your hand or just speak up. We'll keep it fairly informal.
Okay, looks like everybody fully understood everything perfectly.
That's how good the
Uh,
presentation was.
yeah, you can type in the chat or you can just raise your hand and ask the question directly.
To be an effective change agent, what percentage, if you went round that wheel, do you think you have to be able to implement change? You know, if you had to break it down by the different, by synergy, etc., how would you break that down?
Yeah, thank you very much. So in my book, Be a Change Agent, which I'm kind of projecting here, I created a tool there that I call the Veritas Gauge. So the purpose of the tool is to help people to kind of gauge how much, like on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you see yourself in all of this? And the purpose of that is to help people to focus on developing the one where they think they are lacking the most, right? So I don't think there is any rule as to what percentage of each you must have so that you become an effective leader. You know, initially when I started speaking, I talked about all of us being on a journey. So, and that journey is a continuous journey for the rest of our lives. There is no point when we'll really be there as leaders. But the truth is that we can continue to grow. So it's just all about awareness that, okay, so I need to be a little bit tough so that I can reach those goals that I have, or I need to sit down now, sit back, and instead of doing things haphazardly, I need to create a vision, right? So I don't think there is any formula on what each person needs to be. It all depends on individuals. But the truth is that wherever we are today, each one of us has capacity to do big things. We just need to be aware of the toolkit or the attributes that we require to be able to get there. So again, I'm not answering directly to say 30%, 40% something, because it doesn't exist that way. It's just how we perceive ourselves and which area do we think we are weak, and we need to bring ourselves up and be better in it. Thank you.
Thank you for answering the question.
All right, I believe Dawn had a question next, and then we'll go to Leslie's in the chat.
Sure. Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. And I was wondering if you could maybe expand a little bit. Some change isn't planned. And so for the really abrupt changes, what attributes do you think we need to develop for that?
Yeah, thank you very much. So when you talk about abrupt changes, I think I understand what you mean, because there are things that happen outside of our control, right? So I call those things inevitable change. So, and in Pursuit of Personal Leadership, I actually broke it down to 3 different types of change. We have that inescapable, inevitable change that will happen irrespective of what we do. Then we have the change that we can change. So when something changes and we don't like the direction, we can change them. And then we have the change that we can create. So those 3 categories. So when it comes to the change that just happens, you know what? The best way to respond to that is to adapt to the change. And that's where the resilience comes from. So let's say, for example, you are working with the government, and the government decides to make a very drastic decision to close your department at the government. So at that point, you are not responsible for that. You didn't cause the problem. You didn't make the change, right? The change just happens to you. The only way as a leader that you're going to succeed or be able to survive the situation is not to go home and put your both hands on your head, start whining from now until next year. No, we need to think about what are the alternatives. This has already happened. So how do I adapt? What next do I do? So, and that's where the leadership skill comes in. So is about you evaluating your own situation and asking yourself what to do. The type of examples I don't want to give, they are extreme, like losing a loved one or a natural disaster that claims lives and all these things. All these things happen, really. And the only way we will really survive is to adapt. I think the key word there is to become nimble, to be adaptable, to be resilient. So, and resilience is actually one of the things that we learned there today, that sometimes things will be tough and we just need to brace up. As simple as it sounds, I'm saying it as if it's simple. People face real life challenges, things that are real. Sometimes people need to go home and cry, which is okay, but we can't stay there until forever. We still need to adapt and change something about our situation. So when the situation is beyond control, we just adapt and then we move forward. We try to use that situation to our advantage. Let me give you a typical example. If you look at the laws of nature, so say aerodynamics, for example. Aerodynamics is how, say, hair moves and how we, like aerodynamics, changing wind, something like that. So you'll see that the earlier scientists, the Wright brothers, for example, they used the laws of aerodynamics to an advantage by using that to create the first airplane that is motorized, right? So sometimes we have situations that are difficult, and then we're able to turn the circumstance around to be in our favor. And again, I will give a personal example. people will see a lot of EDI things going on, equity, diversity, inclusiveness, or Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, and all these lives matter. So when I look at myself as a person that looks a bit differently from the majority of my community members, I don't see a disadvantage. I use that as an advantage in one way. Because I look a bit different, then that means I'm conspicuous. That means people quickly take notice of me. Then I use that as an advantage. Then that means that if I do things right, then I'll be noticed and then I will have opportunities, right? So it depends on how we see things. Again, ability to adapt to any situation that you find yourself. Ask yourself, what is the good thing in this? And how can I exploit that, even when the situation is not as good? So those are some of the ways that we can view it. And I hope that slightly answers the question. Thanks, Don.
All right, I'll read Leslie's question in the chat. At what point do you go from obstructionist to independent?
Yeah, so obstructionist. I'm trying to, maybe I need to check the dictionary for the meaning of obstructionist. Leslie, do you want to kind of explain a little bit what we mean by obstructionist? You can still type in the chat if you don't want to come up.
I'm opening it up. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. When you describe independence, you discuss the aspect of people that objected to or became you used a word, I used obstructionist, you used something else. That are blocks, they block the progress.
Yes.
Okay. There are situations where somebody who is an independent thinker would be perceived by the organization as an obstructionist because they were not, to use a phrase, they weren't drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
So that's where, at what point do you feel you go from being the devil's advocate, the one who questions it so that it can be a better product or a better process, as compared to somebody who is questioning it? I guess that's where I'm going.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that. And one thing, when I was reading Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, instead of talking about independent, he actually used a term that is even greater than that. He called it interdependent. So we have dependence, we have independence, and then we have interdependence, right? So when we are talking about independence, people need to be careful because sometimes people are so independent that they take off in a different direction and then they become a problem, just like you've described, where they're not that useful anymore, right? And that's why when we are looking at all these attributes, we have to balance them out. So someone who is learning independence of thought and independence of action should also learn synergy, because synergy is also about working together. So there has to be a balance there. But I want to emphasize a little bit more on what we call independence. So let me put it this way. There are certain people that will always look for approval from people before they do anything. So imagine a leader in a team. Until every single member of the team says yes to the idea, they don't want to move forward. Such a person will not be successful. There is no way we can paint it. There is no way we can say it's synergy, it's a collaboration or something. If somebody needs an approval from everybody before they move forward, then their ability to succeed is still going to be limited. So when we talk about that independence, it's independence of thought. It's being able to pull yourself out of the way everybody is thinking, to be able to think differently, or to be able to think in a unique way and take responsibility for that. Sometimes even your thought, when you bring it to the team, may not fly. It doesn't have to fly. It may not be the only superior thought. But the truth is that at least you are able to maintain a thinking pattern that doesn't just follow the norm. And the good thing about independent leaders, so if we have a group of independently thinking people, let's say you have 7 people that are thinking independently, that means that in that team, you have the tendency to have 7 ideas instead of having only 1 idea. then it gives you an opportunity to actually make a better choice, because now you have leaders, you have people that are thinking, and people that can bring independent thoughts and ideas into the team, rather than a team where one person just says something and everybody just follows suit, right? So when we talk about that independence, it's in that context that people need to be independent in their thoughts so that they can have ideas and they can be positive contributors to the great things that are happening in the team. Thank you, Leslie. I hope that almost answers the question.
That was good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It goes along with another speaker I had listened to on change management that felt you only needed 50% buy-in to be having effective change management. But thank you. Good
Thank you.
speech. Good talk, by the way.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any other questions right now, so I'm going to stop the recording.